Today on Quiet Arena Podcast.
The transitional space is not easy for athletes. Dennis, Coach D. Connor.
Every grind season has its own challenges. What do I have to do to overcome it? The lifestyle you thought you had is gone. You didn't have anything set up. You didn't have a plan. Now it's like, okay, what do I do? Back then, it wasn't as important. You think you got this much time. Less about just trying to be a good coach, more about being a better person. I don't separate that from my craft. So like, if I'm going to be a better husband, a better father, a better whatever, I'm also be a better coach.
The stadium is loud, the lights are bright, the crowd is cheering.
Rumor has it, I'm a savage, drop the classic, thinking back.
But every athlete eventually has to answer one question. What happens next? Because when the arena goes quiet, the real game begins. Welcome to Quiet Arena.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is your man, Tony the Tycoon. Welcome to another episode. Welcome to the locker room. You know what I mean? That might be my new thing that I start saying. So, you like the locker room? I like the locker room. My man, Coach D, say he like the locker room. Well, look, we are here in the locker room, a.k.a. the arena. And you know I got to set it off on my man's right. So, today's guest is someone who didn't grow up with access. He built his own. From Fort Worth, Texas, raised by his grandmother, learning discipline early, before opportunity ever showed up. There were no facilities, there were no structure, just a mindset that, you know what, I'm gonna figure it out. And so he carried that into football, became a leader. But when the game didn't open every door, he didn't stop, he built. From working overnight jobs to coaching for next to nothing to building his own facility, he turned struggle into structure. Now he's the owner of Athletic Zone, a mentor, a father, a husband, a man of God, and a man focused on legacy. This is Dennis, Coach D. Connor, man. I appreciate you being here, man. Let's dive right into that thing, man.
Good, man. Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. I'm excited about this. We've been wanting to get this one done for a minute. You know what I mean?
Let's go. Yeah.
All right. So I want you to take us back, man. Let's go back to Fort Worth for a minute. Before the gym, before the athletes, who was Dennis before all of that started?
Man, yeah. So look, Fort Worth is that's the root of it all, right? Fort Worth is the root of it all, but really, Mississippi is the root of it all because that's where my grandmother came from, it's where my father came from, and they came with a certain mentality, leaving Mississippi, going to California, coming to Texas, but the mindset was established based off how they grew up, and then instilled in me. So, but as far as my upbringing in Fort Worth, man, it's I look back at it and, at certain points, you couldn't appreciate it when you're going through it, but then you look back like, now I understand why. And so, my mother had me at a young age, 17. My father, was in and out of prison or whatever. So, we had that struggle, that dynamic. So coming up, my grandmother took me in at 2 years old, and she raised me. And so then that's why I always give credit to my grandmother. I love my parents to death, but my grandmother's the one who, set the path for me. So, with her raising me, man, it was a different dynamic because, like I said, she was raised in the 30s in Mississippi. I don't care what city you go to, 30s in Mississippi, and you make it out of that, like you went through some stuff. So, that's who instilled, all the lessons and principles in me. And so I just took those lessons, as I grew up and continued applying them. But my early days, I can remember back just traveling with her, traveling the world. The scriptures talk about a man will travel knowing many things. So, like, I didn't know that back then, but just traveling with her showed me different, parts of the country and so forth. So my mindset was never locked in to just Fort Worth, although that's my home. And, I learned a lot and I grew up there. I wasn't locked in mentally into just being in Fort Worth, right? But, you mentioned not having access. I had access to certain things. She was a nurse. And so I had access to certain knowledge of the human body, which is crazy because that's what I ended up doing for a living. So I had certain access to that type of knowledge because that's what she did, and on the medical side, and meeting her friends and things of that nature. But when it came to sports, that wasn't her thing. Like she didn't come up in the world of sports. She came up in the world of struggle, and so that's what she knew. But then my next door neighbor, Coach Holly, who was a legend in Fort Worth, he's deceased now, but he was my next door neighbor. He was the main guy for TCU, and it's a little league team. And he was like, "Hey man, you play football?" I was outside just kicking the ball around. I'm like, "No, I didn't even know what football really was." And he was like, "You play?" He just saw a big athletic kid. He's like, "Nah, you play football basically." And so I started going to practice with him and his son Charles, and that was the beginning of the football journey. The fitness journey really was just like we don't have. I didn't even know we didn't have because I didn't know what other kids had. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know they had these coaches, teaching them stuff and going to facilities, lifting weight. Like I didn't. That wasn't even a concept in my mind. But I knew I wanted to work out though. All I knew was I saw Rocky working out. you know, I would see stuff like that. So I know it exists. And so in my mind, like that's just how it is. So I had stuff around the house and made my own weights with it. And the local, it wasn't even, it's like a rec center, not a Y. They
Yeah.
had a gym outdoors that they would let us, hoop at. And so we would go hoop. But to get to it, the grass was like so high. You don't want to walk through it, so you run through it. You don't want to go all the way down the street and around. So it's like one of those things that we just did, not knowing it's teaching us high knees, right? Like we
Yeah.
didn't think like that. We just, yeah, we just did it. We just did it, bro.
I love that, man. That's dope, bro. It's always interesting, like when we're growing up in these environments that that teach us things, that teach us how to overcome adversity and perseverance, man. It's always interesting to be able to reflect on those moments because as a kid, you can't really see the danger in those things. You just look at it as this is just how life is. But when you get older, you're like, dang, bro, I actually went through it.
Yeah. Whether that be playing in the creek, going down hills, whatever it is you do.
Absolutely. No, I love that, man. I actually wanna dive into one of the biggest influence in your life, man, your grandmother. Because you talked about being raised by her. How did that environment shape how you see discipline and responsibility today?
Man, so my grandmother, she's still alive to this day, be 91 this year.
Wow, that's
Um,
amazing, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So she's tough, man. She's been through a couple surgeries, fought through those, and just like she's just a fighter. They had to force her to retire, man. So you talk about discipline. This is somebody who, if she could still work today, like if they allowed her,
Yeah.
she would still be working. So discipline, not even a question. Like as far as like in our household, how she instilled discipline. Of course, you got different dynamics, whether you young man and young woman, we grow differently, right? But from my perspective, how she instilled discipline was just giving me stuff to do. Like at an early age, she had me reading, like ridiculously, like I can't even tell you how many hours, right? To the point where when I went to school, they couldn't even teach me because she already, had me rocking, right? So I ended up skipping up a grade because it was like, well, he already passed all this. So that's how her discipline worked. It was like, I'm telling you what to do, you're going to do it. And you just expected to do it. And so, of course, later on down the line, I saw myself in certain situations where it's like, I have a choice to be undisciplined. And every time I chose to be undisciplined, it didn't work out. Just like, man, just do what you told. Even though it ain't my grandmother telling me, just do what you told to do, because that's the best thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Especially when somebody giving you direction and trying to help you be successful, just follow the rules. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, discipline, man, it was instilled early though. Like I said, she took me in it too, and she had to be in her 50s, And so at that time, she's past her childhood, and she's also past her young adulthood, and so she's experienced life. So everything she's instilling in me, it's like I know that this works, and just do what when I say just do what I tell you, she really meant it. It's because she's seen a lot. My father was probably at the time 20 years old. Like I said, my mother was 17, and so they were young, not even young adults. I mean, you could consider them young adults, but that's young. That's pretty young.
Yeah.
And so, even though there's some things they could probably teach me, not even close to what she can bring to the table, right? With her experience of marching with Martin Luther King, or when she moved out to California and helping the Hispanics Hispanic women get the right to vote, and all those type of things. Like, there's a certain level of dedication that they had to the things that they were doing beyond themselves. That her experiences being poured into me on a small scale was like light work for her, right? And then it's just a matter of me just growing up in it and applying it.
Man, that's so interesting, dude. Because you said something in there that had my mind going. It was like because she started taking care of you while she was like in her, what you said, late 40s, maybe early 50s.
Probably,
It's like
yeah,
she's
something
already,
like that. Yeah.
yeah. So she's already lived all of these different sequences. She's in that legacy stage. So like you're starting at a stage where legacy is already been built.
Right.
So like that gives you like I wouldn't say unfair. I don't want to say it unfair, but it gives you an
Yeah.
amazing advantage on
Yeah.
just the things of life, like how your mind was set up as a young kid is not going to be the same as somebody who's raised by parents that are in their
Exactly.
20s or even 30s. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No, for real. 'Cause I remember being in second grade. I won this award. It was an invention award. And I made this thing called Mailbox Max, and it's basically I don't know why. I know why I thought like that. I was trying to help, right? But In my mind, I'm like, why does the mailman have to get out and drop the mail off at every house? Just put a local mailbox at the very end of the block. He puts it into the slots. There's a vacuum system that runs under the ground to each house, and we problem solve. And that's what I want with. But so instead of my grandmother having me think about sports, because I didn't even know what national football, like NFL, the actual letters, I didn't know what that meant. So I was like sixth, seventh grade.
Wow.
So my mindset was, always on like being, something that's going to be productive in society, whatever that, whether it be through an invention or whether it be through, my contributions, whatever it is, that's where her mind was. So that's where my mind was. And if it wasn't that first, like there ain't no going outside. If you don't get things done based off what she's saying, whether that be a project, whether that reading, whatever it is, you don't go outside. So you're going to get, because you want to go out, back then we wanted to go outside, right? So
Yeah.
I would do all those things so I can make sure I had that time to go out. And that's just her way, right, of giving me something, like you're saying, like if she's in that legacy stage and she's thinking differently, she's not thinking like a 17-year-old or 20-year-old parent would be thinking when it's, maybe sports first or whatever the agenda is. Her agenda was, I want to make sure that he's successful. Like no matter what he go through, he's going to be able to be successful.
Yeah, she's building you, and then based off of just the time frame that she was raised, she's building you from a thought process of success and as well as survival. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like being able to,
Hey, listen, don't get it twisted. My grandmother, I'll give you a quick story. Not a lot of people know this story. So, and you know what I'm saying? So when I was a junior in high school, right, I thought I was going to be running with a gang and stuff like this, right?
yeah,
There was a situation where I got jumped by a few dudes, and I held my own for the most part. But back then you want some get back. You want to go fight.
yeah.
So yeah, I tried to link up with the dudes who's supposed to be in this gang or whatnot, and they were all. I mean, some of them were ride or die ish, but when it came time to actually go door to door, there was some fleeting of feet going on. And then once I realized, like, okay, they not really about it like that, man, it was my grandmother and my father, who just happened to be out of prison at the time, who was like, hey, let's go. We finna go door to door. And that's when I realized, oh, this the grandma I ain't know about, this the freedom fighter right here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, she a sweetest lady and for the people and all that, but at the same time, she's a fighter too, though.
I love
So
it, bro.
I learned that about her, man. I'm like, okay, this is it. You want to talk about a well-rounded person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She took on that thought process of come on outside so I may lay these hands upon thee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh man,
Listen, bro, I can go detail on that, but I found out who she really was.
Yeah, I love that, bro. That's so man. That's so cool, bro. So the journey that people never saw is like before, they see Athletic Zone now. They see what it's built. They see where it's been. They see the final product, and we won't say the final product because there's a transition. But they saw a major building block of the product, right? But they don't see the years before it. So what did that grind season for you like? What did that feel like? Give us some insight about that part.
The grind, it's hard to say the grinds because there's grind seasons. And so, I would say like each grind season had its own struggle and challenge. Like right now I'm in another grind season. Like I'm coaching at 4 a.m. right now. I haven't done that in I don't know how many years exactly. So there's a bunch of grind seasons, and what it looks like is there's a mission at hand. It has to get done, and I signed up for this. So point me in a direction. Where we going? It's like you can have the mindset like some of the brothers in the scriptures you read about who saw giants, or you could have the ones who saw just opportunity, right? And I see opportunity. And every grind season, like I said, has its own challenges. It's just trying to figure out, okay, what's the challenge? What do I have to do to overcome it? Like right now with the transition, there's certain things that don't work here that were perfect at the other location.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Make the adjustments and let's go after it. Is it easy? No, but it has to be done. And I see the bigger picture, and I haven't lost sight of that. And so it like nothing deters me. And so the grind season just looks like making sure you make the decisions, still not in the moment, not for whatever the feeling may be or whatever, but for the bigger picture. So when I am making the decisions, it's like, okay, I can see the end goal, and how does this line up with that, and does it help forward the mission? And if it does, then we stay on it. But to get into more detail, the grind, when I first started opening Athletic Zone, I left D1 Sports and took a position at a company called the Den Sports Performance, and they ended up becoming a hidden gem. But I took a job as a general manager and head coach at that facility, but I was also working as a performance coach at Michael Johnson Performance. And so I had two jobs basically while I was trying to open up Athletic Zone. But then my main job at the one in Allen, they basically was like, hey, like, you got to make a decision. Either you're going to work for us or you can open your own facility. Because in my mind, I could do all three. But to them, it's like, they didn't see the vision like that. And so I made a choice. I'm trying to build something that I can possess, like even right now, to where when things go wrong, I have the ability to shift and still be able to continue on and not rely on somebody else to, control my future. So I made that decision. So I made the decision, went to Athletic Zone 2018. I still worked at Michael Johnson Performance, which is how I pretty much funded the gym until, it became an actual gym and started having members. And so did that for basically for 2 years until COVID hit. So again, another struggle that you don't foresee coming. We had to shut down to that following year, to June of the following. So luckily I still had other stuff going on, but I was able to fight through that grind, go through the COVID period, training online, reaching out to my people in Mexico, training them online, like it just steady grinding. MJP had to shut down too, so lost that opportunity. And they're no longer even a company anyway after that. So like all those struggles were coming. And like I said, there's seasons of grind. So at one point in time, it was like, cool, I got the double income. All right, then lost one. It's like, okay, well, I got this, lost that one, and then lost my main income. So I had to get back on the grind again, and we built back up. And then, like I said, there's always struggles throughout all of that. But the main goal was, okay, let's make sure we have a place for people to come that they can, it's trusted. It's not like you just showing up doing your own thing. When they come here, it's trusted, meaning like the coaches have a certain level of education. They know that there's time put into the programming. There's a certain care for whoever walks through the door. It doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete or your general population. When you come through the door, you're going to get the best out of whichever coach is here. And so they know that they can trust that. And we built that trust. Like I said, we didn't have weights. We had open turf. And at one point, I didn't even have lights, but I had people training there. So, like, the trust had been built. And it just continued on. And so even today when we had, I say today meaning like in this time period, when we had to make this transition, the people trusted us to take them into another land, basically. And when we got there, it's like, okay, well, it's really not that bad of a transition. We have different setups or whatever, but, we're making it work and the people trust us. And now, again, we're right back to grinding, giving them opportunity to see that, hey, we're here for you and the business is going to continue. Even when I step away one day, it's going to continue that way, Lord's will.
Yeah, at that point, you're talking about legacy. No, I love everything that you're talking about. What I'm hearing is that you were able to take all of those different experiences, go through those different seasons, quote unquote, grind seasons of life, leverage those experiences to move you into different lands. And so now what has happened is you've created a community, and that community trusts you enough because what they've seen from you, and now they're moving over to carry on to the new space that you are. Here's an awareness thought process. Like at what point did you realize this isn't just about training? Like you're supposed to build something that's bigger than what you started with. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that happened around 2013.
Okay.
Around 2013, when I woke up to who I am, and when I woke up to who the Most High is, it happened like around at that time. Basically, like there's stages to it, and it started to develop. But it was around that time because at that time I had already been at D1 Sports for about maybe a year and a half or two. And then when that happened, then it was like, okay, my whole perspective changed, and it became less about just trying to be a good coach, and more about being a better person. And then within that, obviously, you don't separate that for me anyway. I don't separate that from my craft. So like, if I'm gonna be a better husband, a better father, a better whatever, I'm also be a better coach, a better business owner, whatever I put my hands to, I'm gonna be better at that now because I have a different set of standards now that I'm living by. And so, 2013, it really started to amp up. Excuse me. Started to amp up for me, and then it just continued on.
That growth, you're talking about that growth period. Like we're never looking to stay the same. Every day we're always looking to go to the next level, and it starts in incremental steps. I know for me, man, the biggest the biggest growth period for me was looking at the man in the mirror and that's deciphering the things that I didn't like. And a lot
Right.
of times that's the thing that most people won't do. Like, hey man, you got a little pride here, or hey, there's a little ego here, or hey, there's some
Right.
immaturity in this area. Right? We have to
Yeah.
deal with those things. And having accountability partners and calling those things out loud too. You know what I mean? Like no secret
Yeah.
sins as the scriptures like
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
How would you get better?
Yeah.
You have to deal with that with like with your children too. And I didn't have that mirror to look in until then because I was searching. I was looking through glasses, glass and not getting a reflection back because I
Yeah.
didn't have the actual tool to do it. But once I got it, then it was like, oh, okay, now I can see. Even to this day, like, and it's not like it stops, right? Like, just like we talk about grind season with the business, likewise with ourselves. But at least I have the tools to be able to do it, so I'm not, out here wondering. Because I know there's a lot of men, especially, who, when we get to a certain age, I would say anywhere between 25 to 30 years old, we start having those questions about our purpose. We start having questions to, like, am I doing what's right? And like, if you don't know, and nobody can tell you what actually right means, or actually what direction you should be going and what your purpose is, then you're always guessing. That's why you see us kind of, doing this and doing that and jumping from this, jumping to that, because we don't have that identity. But once you get it, then it's okay, I can stay solid within what I'm doing, keep these fundamentals, these principles, and keep pushing this. Now, I might branch off in different lanes within what I'm doing, but this is my lane. And you
Yeah.
have that, without that truth, it's hard to do that.
No, I'm with you 1,000%, man. You got to be rooted in identity. But if you haven't discovered who your identity is in, then you're going to have an issue when it comes to moving around through life. You're going to be fleeting, bouncing to and fro. Like that's so huge, and that it's funny because, like, funny in an interesting way, not funny, haha.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But like that's the reason why this platform exists. Is we're talking about that. Like a lot of athletes, man, they attach themselves to their sport. And so what happens is that when they retire, now their sport, aka their identity, has now moved away from them. And so now they're just left trying to figure out, well, who am I now? And the reality is that your identity was never in the sport. The sport was what you did. It's not who you are. I've been researching this thing called athlete identity foreclosure, and it's a psychological aspect of the athlete that's attached themselves to their sport so in-depthly and so innately and so deeply that when it leaves, it's almost like a death. Like it's crazy. It's like a psychological death, and then that's why you start seeing all of these different things happen, man. So
The decline. I did a speech
yeah,
for Dallas ISD, and it was called Beyond Rehab, which
yeah,
touched on the same thing because you got some athletes who identify with the sport or whatnot when injuries happen. Although some might be retirement, some
yeah,
might be just abrupt stop because college days are over, whatever the case may be. So beyond the field, beyond the gridiron, whatever the case is, we do have those issues. And again, when you don't have that identity, like you said, and that is your identity, it's almost as if you lost yourself because that's
yeah,
where your identity was, right? And so,
yeah.
and they need people like you, and I know you're part of the pack and things like that to help athletes try to identify, something beyond themselves. And that's why I said 2013, once I got the truth, is like, okay, now I can actually operate within the realm of what I'm already in, right, at a higher capacity because now I really know who I am and whose I am, like you said. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, man. Like, listen, not to be corny, but he's the reason for the seasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
when
yeah. I know
you,
what you said.
yeah,
Yeah,
when you allow yourself, man, it's freeing. Like you're no longer thinking about, well, God, what is my purpose? Now it's like, okay, God, show me how to only move in my
yeah,
purpose, and that becomes a
exactly.
different thing.
Yeah, you want to be solid in it, right? Yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. But we were talking about seasons before. You mentioned something. You were talking about like, man, you go from this is interesting, man. The money situations is always curious. Is always an interesting
yeah,
topic. So you go from having 3 flows, bro. You had 3 streams, bro. I can only imagine. Like, yeah, I'm putting in this work. Yeah, I'm a little tired, but bro, on them days when them checks is
yeah,
coming,
yeah,
bro,
yeah, yeah,
I forget
yeah.
about how tired I am, bro.
Yes,
Oh, paid, paid,
especially that.
paid.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Yeah,
especially the salary was nice and the MJP.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was really
it was
good.
good.
But
Yeah,
then the symmetry and the similarity to athletes that retire and the money stops is the same as with you. Like you're for different reasons, but the money
yeah.
stops. When you're in that season of life, man, how does that feel?
That the up part,
The ups
the up
and the
part.
downs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. The
yeah,
up, so I can speak hindsight now. When I have up now,
Yeah.
Now it's more so like, okay, what do I need to do with it? What I've been, blessed with is what am I finna invest in? What am I gonna do, et cetera. But back then, I'm not gonna say I had too frivolous of a mind. I
Mm-hmm.
still have a fruitful mindset, but it just wasn't. How can I say? It wasn't as locked in. Meaning, it wasn't as important. You think you got this much time. So, like, let's say you're dealing with life insurance or something like that. My first thought process wouldn't have been, let me make sure I have this solidified, paid up for a few years, whatever the case may be. That wasn't the thought process. It'd
Yeah.
be geared more toward, let me go buy some more performance gear so I can have the latest gadget to make sure I can measure an athlete at this, I'm just like stuff
Yeah.
like that. And so priorities kind of upside down or backwards. But now when it's up, it's more so like, okay, we're gonna go buy this property. What I mean, it's put in places that we talk about legacy,
Yeah.
things that we can actually have that we can pass down. That's what the mindset goes more towards now. So of course, you still got like immediate bills, and that doesn't go anywhere. But outside of that, when you have the extra, now when it's up, it's up. But back then, I was at that particular moment we brought up. I was thinking about the gym, and I was thinking about I got to get this, I got to do that, and I was thinking on such a big scale.
Yeah.
But I've actually backtracked now to where it's like, you know what? I don't even need all of that. I'm in a situation now where, although it's a co-op style business, it's way more fruitful. And I
Mm.
might not be 100% owner, but I'm cool with that because I also don't have to worry about cleaning toilets. I don't have to worry about if the paper towels and toilet tissue run out. Did somebody vacuum this 10,000 square foot space? Like, my mind is free.
Yeah.
So I have a different level of appreciation, obviously, for ownership. But I also know that with the money that does come, because I've seen when COVID hit, and I've seen it ain't always going to be up like that. You need to make sure that you're making the right decision with the money. Now, of course, my situation, I have history, meaning I have some time in at another facility, and within that time, there's bills that you stack up and all type of stuff. So you still got to take care of like all that type of stuff. But then when you get to the other side of that, then you can start to like, okay, now I can start to build this mound up again. And once I build this mound up, I'm gonna dig and I'm gonna go to the next spot. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna dig and get to the next spot. I'm gonna do the same thing. I have all my little hills set up, all my little provisions set up, and then hopefully retire and teach my kids to do the same.
I love that, man. I love that. It's funny you're talking about, all of the different intricacies of business ownership. And you work with athletes. You work with high school athletes, youth athletes, professional athletes. I believe one of the young ladies you're working with now is a boxing champion in her division. You've worked with some. I know Josh is he's still playing and doing his thing. So you've worked with a couple of these guys. Working so closely with these athletes, you see the ascend, but then you see the descend as well. What do you see that they're not prepared for when the structure that they have around them when they're moving upward gets removed?
Man, so actually, the ones that you named are actually in good positions because they actually listen and they take advice. But I have others, like I had a kid right now, I won't say what team in his name, but it's not the same. And I can see him going in the same direction I've seen other athletes go. And it's almost as if, consider the ant, right? Like that's yeah. So that mindset is not there. So it's more so living, based off of what they see at the moment versus, thinking about, okay, the winter's coming, right? And I need to do this, that, and the other. So seeing the ascend with certain athletes is like, okay, they get it. Especially, the young lady you mentioned, Sharetta Metcalf. You want to talk about a tycoon? She's gonna be a tycoon, man. She's already set up a nonprofit and is working, is doing this thing. It's gonna have its own legs. She has her own shop, and even though she might have been champion of this, that, and the other, she used that as a tool to help her to set all the other stuff up, right? And so she's somebody who came from uh, a very unique situation to get to where she is. It's the easiest way I can put it. But she takes advantage of it and uses her name, uses that belt, uses her, relationships, and does it the right way. If I can say anybody does, I know like she's one of them. She doesn't shy away from the fact that, hey, I'm trying to build for my future, right? But there are other athletes who you see, it's like, man, they got everything. They start to climb. Maybe they tweeted something, got cut, and they didn't realize that was going to happen. Now they can't get back in, whatever the case may be. And the lifestyle you thought you had is gone, but you didn't have anything set up. You didn't have a plan, right? And you relied on that. And now it's like, okay, what do I do? And then you see the confusion like we talked about earlier. they're going to and fro. Now it's like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Oh, that didn't work. I'm gonna do this. And so now you start to see a scramble. And it's like, well, if we had people to teach them, right, especially like right now with NIL deals, they need to be taught early as possible, like in high school, to start getting prepared for these things. Because if you do walk into a situation like that, and let's say college is all, but you go to college, you make 2 to 5 mil or make 800,000 to whatever, like 500,000. It's still a good amount of money that you can use to set your future up. We need to have those conversations early because it's no longer just pros. It's no longer just football. It's softball. I think player right now is the highest paid player out of Texas Tech, and so it's across all platforms now. So we need to, help these athletes understand that yes, you're going to ascend, right? We don't know how long it's going to be, but the fact that you have opportunity to ascend, like take care of this X, Y, and Z on your way up, so that when you get up here, instead of falling, you could just plateau and have small increments over time based off the investments that you made or whatever it is that you do.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. No, I agree with that 1,000%, man. Like, my people perish for the lack of knowledge is one that a lot of people understand. And so, being able to figure out a way to merge the want of the knowledge needed with the monies that's coming in for these young athletes, man, is pivotal to be able to get them to think about themselves 5, 10, 20 years down the line. And I know a lot of times we're kind of out of sight, out of mind, but when you're dealing in this space of opportunity, like opportunity just doesn't continue to come around. You got to take advantage and be ready to take advantage. And you got to have those type of mentors like yourself. For the ones that do listen, they're gonna really come back. It's like that teacher that you appreciate when you were in high school, but you didn't really like when you know.
But then later on, you're like,
10 years later, like, man, Mr. Davis or Miss Johnson, I appreciate you. Man.
Got me right.
Yeah.
And I think for that, it goes back to so that we can kind of get away from the narrative of it's hard to teach them or hard to get them to buy into it. We got to teach them early as possible. And, if we could teach parents to teach them at home, and if you're going to put your kids and you're going to invest this money in your kids playing soccer, baseball, whatever, AAU back, if you're going to do it with the hope of them getting to a certain level, let's be truthful with the kids and tell them, hey, the percentage, 1% make it or whatever the case may be. Okay, cool. But there's still a lot of opportunities within that for NIL deals, sponsorships, or whatever. If you fall into these situations as an athlete, because pretty much you're a professional athlete now in college, then this is what you should be doing. So curriculums in schools, they should be teaching this. You're still teaching economics from whatever, but it's teaching new economics. Like, let's talk about the things that are relevant today and have it on their mind early. So when they do walk into it, it's an expectation. It's not a surprise.
I love that. No. Well, Coach, look, as we get ready to wrap up, man, first and foremost, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got to get out of here and get to training these kids, man, and these athletes. But we always like to end the episode with a signature question, right? And it's unique for you because now you're on the sports side of it, but at one point in time, you also played football as well collegiately, so you understand that aspect. So the question goes like this: when the arena goes quiet, what part of you remains that the game could never take, and what are you building with it now?
Integrity. That's the one thing that the game can't take. Anybody can take is integrity, and that's because that's a you thing. That's up to you. It doesn't matter if you're playing sports, if you're in business, your marriage, whatever the case may be. And not saying that because I play football or whatever, I'm perfect because I have understanding, but I do understand that my integrity is up to me. So if something needs to be done before the lights go off in whatever arena you play, and you had assignments to do, coaches give you X, Y, Z to do, it's up to you to do it. And if you do it, good. You got the integrity. You got the mindset that I'm gonna have a sense of urgency about what coach told me. I'm gonna get it done. Not every athlete thinks like that. So that's why sometimes you have great teams and sometimes you don't, because not everybody's on that one accord. Likewise in marriages. When those lights go off, you still have a wife. When those lights go off, you still have children. You still have a job. You still have things to do. How you operate in one thing, most people say, is how you're going to operate in all things. So if you have integrity, when the lights go off, just because they went off, now all of a sudden I don't. No, I should still have that same integrity. So for me, it's integrity. And for somebody else, it might be something else that might be more tangible or motivational. But for me, it's that integrity, because that's the one thing you can always work on, and it's a you thing.
I love that, man. I love that. Well, Coach, man, I appreciate you and the time that you spent with us. Before we get out of here, where can the people reach out to you? Where can they find you? Social media, all of that stuff.
Yeah, so my personal, you can reach me at Coach D _ATHLZ. That's athletes Performance Lab, or you can reach me at Athletic Zone 214 across all platforms and athleticzone214.com.
All right, I appreciate you, man. Well, look, we're going to wrap this thing up. Like a lot of you guys know, man, I've spent about a decade in the NFL. And what I've come to realize is that the transitional space is not easy for athletes. So if you know anybody that's in that space, or you yourself are in that space, I want you to go over to thequietarenapodcast.com. I want you to click on the resource tab, and you'll see a book there called What to Do When It's Done, Navigating Life After the Game. It's a resource that we put out to be able to help you guys. Subscribe to the channel, share the channel, man. And as always, appreciate you guys for coming to the locker room. It is your man, Tony the Tycoon. We are out.
Living legend, lethal weapon, mastermind, never tried, tell them all.